The SNCC, also known as the SNCC community, was founded April 1st, 1960 through April 17th, 1960. To give a brief overview, SNCC was known as a civil rights group formed to give younger blacks more of a voice in the civil rights movement. The SNCC organization soon became one of the movement's more radical branches. In the wake of the Greensboro sit-ins at a lunch counter closed to blacks, Ella Baker, director of the SCLC, also known as Southern Christian Leadership Conference, helped set up the first meeting of what became the SNCC organization. Lawson, whose workshops on nonviolent direct action served as a training for many of the Nashville student protesters, drafted an organization statement of purpose that reflected the strong commitment to the Gandhian nonviolence. Freedom rides were a series of political protests against segregation by blacks and whites who rode buses together through the American South in 1961. Freedom rides designed to test 1960 Supreme Court ruling that declared segregation in interstate travel facilities unconstitutional. Although the campaign succeeded in securing an Interstate Commerce Commission ban on segregation in all facilities under jurisdiction, the Freedom Riders filled existing tensions between student activists and Martin Luther King Jr., who publicly supported the riders but did not participate in the campaign. Called the Journey of Reconciliation, the ride challenged bus segregation in the upper parts of the South, avoiding the more dangerous Deep South. In Alabama, encounters of violence were severe. Upon stopping outside Anniston, one bus was firebombed and free riders were beaten. August 1963, March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom SNCC chairman John Lewis was one of those scheduled to speak. In many Deep South communities where SNCC had once attacked considerable black support, the group's influence waned. Nevertheless, after the Selma to Montgomery March, Stokely Carmichael and other SNCC organizers entered the rural areas between Selma and Montgomery and helped black residents launch the all-black Lowndes County Freedom. During the month following his election, Carmichael publicly expressed SNCC's new political orientation when he began calling for Black Power during his voting rights march through Mississippi. National exposure of Carmichael's Black Power speeches brought increased notoriety to SNCC, but the group remained internally divided over its future direction. King argued, effective political power for Negroes cannot come through separatism. The Congress of Radical Equality, also known as CORE, founded in 1942, grew during the 1960s because of a significant influx of young leadership into its ranks. But in the decade, there were more SNCC field secretaries working full-time in the Southern communities than any other civil rights organization before or since. Origin for the use of Black Power varies. Its roots can be traced to the author Richard Wright's nonfiction work, Black Power, published in 1954, and in 1955, the Lowndes County Freedom Organization used the slogan Black Power for Black People for its political candidates, but it wasn't until 1966 when Black Power made it mainstream, Deacons for Defense and Justice, and the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. Although African American writers and politicians used the term Black Power for years, the expression first entered the lexicon of civil rights movement during the Meredith March Against Fear in the summer of 1966. Martin Luther King Jr. believed that Black Power was essentially an emotional concept, that it meant different things to different people, but worried that the slogan carried connotations of violence and separatism and opposed its use.
Black Power was born from the wombs of despair and disappointment. Black Power is a cry of pain. It is in fact a react to the failure of white power to deliver promises to do it in a hurry.
There are no white liberals or moderates and no possibility for cooperation between races at the present time, but the Lowndes County experience cannot be made a measuring rod for the whole of America. Spontaneous urban upbringing that followed the assassination of King in April 1968 indicated a high level of black discontent.